Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to this edition of Country Cooking. We are actually in our month of February. You're going to see Christmas decorations behind me. We're taping in December. Our little recording lady is going to be on maternity leave in February, so we're going to do all this ahead of time. But being it's the month of February, we're going to carry out a theme. In today's show, we're going to be doing the Mardi Gras, New Orleans style, so we're going to be baking king's cake first, and then after that we'll go ahead and do the shrimp gumbo. So I already started the dough for the king's cake. What it is it's 1 cup of milk, 1/4 cup of butter, and you scald the milk and then you put the butter in there to melt and cool down. And while that's doing that, then you go ahead and you take your 2 packages of dry active yeast, 2/3 cup warm water, and you dissolve that, and then you add a tablespoon of sugar to that and let that poof. Well, while your milk is cooling and your yeast is puffing, you know, you'll wait just a few minutes, about 10 minutes or so for that, and then you go ahead and you whisk 2 eggs, and you put the eggs in your bowl, you add your yeast product and your milk product, and you mix that up. And then you're gonna add 3 tablespoons of sugar, and 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg to that mixture. And then you add your 5.5 cups of flour. You get your dough, and then you gotta let your dough rise, and it takes about 2 hours, and then it'll double in size. So this is what you have. And king's cake is kind of a Mardi Gras tradition, and what it is they make these cakes, which to me is like a huge cinnamon roll ring. And down there they probably have metal babies, and they put the baby in the cake, and then they take the cake, or they have the party, and whoever gets the baby is supposed to have luck or have the next party. We will be putting a baby in our cake, but our baby's going to be put in after it's baked, because otherwise somebody's going to get a piece of melted plastic in their thing. But anyway, the dough ends up like this, and there is enough here to do 2 rings, so you're going to have 2 cookie sheets lined with parchment paper. And then you're going to divide your dough into 2 portions. And you want to roll it out to be about 10 inches by 16-inch rectangular, because you're going to roll it up like a cinnamon roll. For you people that do make homemade doughs and stuff, you know what I'm talking about. So we're going to go ahead and roll this out. And I'm not the type that's going to sit here and measure it, just make sure that it's 16 inches long or 10 inches in length, but we will get it fairly close. And it stretches, so if you want to get it a little bit more even, you can stretch it down. There's one. We'll go ahead and roll the next one out before we do the filling. And this is going to take 45 minutes or so to rise after we get the filling in it and get it rolled up. So that's why I'm doing the king's cake first, because then while it's rising, we can work on the shrimp gumbo, and we can bake the king's cake, and we can have our Mardi Gras celebration in Harriet, South Dakota. Well, let's put it this way, in the Valley listening area, because not everybody's going to be here with me today. And it forms a nice soft dough. It doesn't stick to you. It's a pretty good dough to work with. Pretty simple to roll out. Just because I said it, now it's going to be tough. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put this in the sink. I'll be right back. Okay, now that we've got the dough rolled out, we're going to go ahead and make the filling for inside the king's cake, and that's going to consist of 1 cup of packed brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon, 2 2/3 cups of chopped pecans, 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup of raisins, and 1/2 cup of melted butter. And you just pour it all in a bowl large enough to hold it, and then just mix it up. You want to incorporate all of it, and my bowl does work, but it's kind of close. So make sure you have a big enough bowl. Anyway, we're just going to mix this up. And then this here will be divided between the two dough rectangles. And if you don't care for raisins, you don't have to put raisins in it. If you don't care for nuts, you could probably omit the nuts too. I think it's just kind of however you want to do it. When we were in New Orleans, my husband and I chaperoned our youth from the church, and we went down there. Well, it was in the summertime. It wasn't during Mardi Gras or anything. But we did go on Bourbon Street, and we did go see how they make the Mardi Gras floats. And we also had king's cake, but it was different. I don't remember it being exactly like this, but it was good. So that's why I decided we needed to do Mardi Gras now, since it's February, or will be February. Anyway, divide this between your two loaves. And then you just kind of spread it out. You want to make sure you get to the ends, because when you roll it, we're going to make a circle or an oval. So when you put the ends together, you want to make sure that that piece there at least gets some of the filling. And with the butter in it, it's going to melt inside, and it's going to make it like a caramel or a cinnamon roll. So you got that. Maybe this is why they tell you to do a 10 by 16, so you get enough filling for both of them. Or don't make it quite so large. One's going to be real full and the other is going to be skimpy. Okay, this will work. Okay, then what you do is you take it from the long side and you just start rolling it up, just like you would a cinnamon roll. And on the recipe, it'll tell you to pinch the ends. I don't pinch my ends because I connect it and then I would pinch it. But just roll it up there and make sure that you got it rolled nice and tight. And then bring your ends, and this is where I pinch. And then after I get it pinched, I kind of give it a roll to seal it a little bit more. And then of course you're going to want to put the seam side down on your pan. And once you have it on your pan, either sprayed with oil or parchment lined. Parchment line makes it a lot easier for cleanup, because when you make them, the filling kind of wants to bubble out. So this way all you have to do is pull it off the paper and throw the paper. You don't have to sit there and soak your pan all night. Anyway, then I just take and put the end in the other end and pull it together and then pinch that and try to get some of that filling moved towards that piece so whoever gets that piece doesn't feel cheated. And you can make it round or oval, however you want. We'll go oval. That one's done. We'll work on this one, and then we have to cut the slits, and I'll have to get my kitchen shears. Try to be organized for this, and sometimes it's like you space off the little things. Anyway, we'll roll this one up also. When I worked at the school, we made homemade cinnamon rolls for the kids. That was a chore. Make cinnamon rolls for 120 kids and then end up with 200 and some cinnamon rolls. They liked them the next day anyway. So, I like working with dough. Probably a good thing I'm out here in the German community. Okay, then we'll put this one on. And do the same thing, open an end. Almost looks like an elephant trunk. We're gonna put the other end in, pinch it together, and give it a stretch. Okay, let me grab my shears. And then just take your kitchen shears and cut a slit every so often on top so it can release some of that moisture that'll build up in there. That one's done. Now we're going to set these aside and let them rise in a warm place for 45 minutes, and then they'll be ready to bake. I'll put those where they need to be. I'll be right back. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move over to the stove, and we're going to start our shrimp gumbo. This is a fairly simple recipe, so anybody can make it. As where I think down in New Orleans, it's probably a full day process that they do. I think my husband had it when we were down there because he's big into the shrimp stuff. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and put just a small amount of oil in the frying pan, and we're going to heat that up. And we are going to add 1 cup of chopped onion. And of course, I prepped all of this ahead of time so that it wouldn't take so long. You really don't want to stand there and watch me prep onion. And 3 cloves of garlic, and I gotta grab my spoon. And you guys all know me. I cheat and I use already minced stuff rather than the garlic press and stuff. So 1, 2. Okay, and we're gonna put that on here and just saute this for a couple of minutes. And while this is sauteing for the 2 minutes, you can go ahead and it calls for a ½ pound of kielbasa. And I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna use the whole thing here. ½ pound is 8 ounces, this is 14. It'll just give it a little extra of the sausage versus the shrimp and stuff. So, and you just go ahead and cut that into 1/4 inch slices. We'll leave the ends up. That might take off a little bit of an ounce or 2. Okay, now that we've sauteed the onion and garlic for a couple of minutes here and it's starting to get tender, we're going to go ahead and add the kielbasa. And this too we're just going to put in here and add it for 2 minutes. We're going to cook it. You want your sausage to kind of brown a little bit. So you can just put that in. And if you aren't like me where everything is already prepped to save time, this would be a time where you could go ahead and start dicing your green pepper, which it's 1 cup of onion, 3 garlic, ½ pound of kielbasa, 1½ cups of green pepper, and it just so happened that my pepper was big enough when I prepped it last night that it did come out to be a cup and a half. We're going to add that. And then we're going to also do that at 2 minutes. It seems like this is a 2-minute recipe, but whatever. So after another minute here, we'll add the pepper, and then that will tender crisp for 2 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and add the can of tomatoes, diced, undrained. I've gotten better about eating shrimp, so it'll be fun to try this now. When we were in New Orleans, I didn't want to try it. I did try alligator though. One of the little gals ordered it at one of the restaurants we were at, and we all got to sample her alligator, which tastes like chicken. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add the 1.5 cups of green pepper. And the same thing with this, we're going to let it cook for 2 minutes. Like I said, this is a pretty simple recipe. It doesn't take real long. You could have this here done and ready to serve family by half an hour after you get home from work. It smells good. Okay, after you get the peppers in and they're for 2 minutes, then we're going to go ahead and stir in 1 can of diced tomatoes, juice included. One cup of chicken broth. We have a few seasonings that we have to add, and that would be 1 bay leaf. I picked out a big one so I can make sure and find it. We have 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. A 1/2 teaspoon of salt. A 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder. A 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And 1/8 teaspoon of Tabasco sauce. You can see how often I use Tabasco sauce. So what I'm going to do is just add a couple drips here. And then we're going to bring this to a boil, which it is already doing because it's moving faster than I am. And we want to mix this all up so that all the things in here get the same flavoring. Okay, now we're going to let it cook for 2 minutes. And once we have the 2 minutes for that, then we're going to go ahead and add 3/4 of a pound of uncooked medium-sized shrimp, peeled and deveined. And you can buy that in the grocery store. You don't have to buy the real shrimp where you got to sit there and devein it, because if we did, I wouldn't be making this today. So we'll let that cook for the 3 minutes here. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. Be right back. Okay, now our mixture here is boiled, so we're going to go ahead and add the shrimp. You do want to wash it after you get it from the store, whether it's fresh or frozen. We're just going to add that, and we're going to stir this up, and then we want this to cook for about 3 to 4 minutes until the shrimp turns pink. And somebody that's not real familiar with shrimp might say, well, it already is pink because it kind of has that flamingo look to it. But we will just let this set and cook for 3 to 4 minutes. And then after that is done, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of minute rice. So we'll set the timer here for the 3 to 4 minutes. And go from there. Our mixture here is cooked for the 3 to 4 minutes. Now we're gonna go ahead and add a half a cup of the minute rice, and we're gonna just pour that right inside this, mix it up good. And then we are going to cover it and let it stand for 5 minutes. So everything that was prior to the rice is already cooked and ready to be eaten. So we will just mix this up good, shut our heat off, put our lid on, and set the timer again for 5 minutes. Okay, our king's cake is finished. Our gumbo's on the stove simmering, so we're gonna go ahead and do the icing for this. What it is it's 2 cups of powdered sugar, and I have 1/4 cup of water measured out. We're gonna pour most of it in and see what we get, and then we can always add more. So just pour that in and mix it up good. Yeah, see I think the 1/4 cup is about the good, because you want to be able to pour it on so that it runs out. You don't want it to be real thick like this. So I am going to add the remainder of the 1/4 cup. So 2 cups of powdered sugar and 1/4 cup of water. We'll make your glaze. Get it nice and smooth. And then what we're going to do is just go ahead and pour it on top of the cake. And then we're going to add a little bit of festivity to carry out the Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras colors are purple, green, and gold, and I have the purple, green, and gold sugar, so I'm just going to add some color. And of course the cake is still kind of warm, so it's running and the sugar is going to run right with it, but you'll get the idea. Yeah, my icing's really running. You might want to let your cakes cool a little longer than what we did, but when you're recording for TV you can't wait forever. So anyway, we've got this one done. If you guys don't care for the sugar, you don't have to add the sugar to the top. I'm gonna just put the icing on this one, and then maybe the people that are gonna have this one don't care for the sugar, so it'll just be a big cinnamon roll. Okay, we'll let that set for a second. I will grab some plates and we will plate up our chicken gumbo or shrimp gumbo. I have the baby. Like I said, mine is plastic. The icing's running. I don't think the cake is going to melt the baby, but what we'll do is we'll just lift it off of the parchment paper and we're gonna shove it just right inside and put it right back down. And then Lisa's going to be taking this back to the Valley office today, and they'll cut into it tomorrow, and whoever gets that baby, they don't know it yet, but they're having a big party. So anyway, that's what we call the Mardi Gras king cake. Very festive looking, and if your icing didn't run off, your colors would be brighter. We can maybe add some later, whatever. So I will be right back. I'm gonna grab a plate so we can plate up the shrimp gumbo. Okay, I did add another cup of cooked instant rice to the chicken or the shrimp gumbo. So we're gonna go ahead and serve it this way. And this is the way I remember seeing the gumbo down in New Orleans. Maybe I'm wrong, but you know what? We're up here in South Dakota, so we can do it South Dakota style. And then we can add a little bit more because we'll taste this here and see what it tastes like. And then we're gonna go ahead and cut into the king's cake here. And it's probably still pretty warm, but we're still gonna do it anyway so that you guys have the chance to see what the finished product is before we dig into it, or not knowing what it looks like on the inside. That's what your king's cake looks like on the inside. Like I said, it looks like a big cinnamon roll. So here we have our Mardi Gras edition of the country cooking. We've got shrimp gumbo and the king's cake. That's our show for this week. Please tune in 2 weeks from now when we'll be doing something else. I'm not sure what yet, but we will be. So happy Mardi Gras to everybody. Enjoy your evening. Thanks. Bye.